This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Middle of the week. It is Wednesday, the 25th day of January, and I thank you so much for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. I almost forgot what month it was. Sorry, yesterday. It's funny, we're in week number 2 of our Salem podcast venture, and I'm so grateful to you for your support of not just the sponsors, but your patience with me as we kind of try to negotiate it and wrangle it. We had a special Saturday podcast offering last week. I think we're going to do that in the future. Certain things and elements that we couldn't fit into the podcast or don't always have time to get to. For now, I'm going to put in a commercial-free Saturday podcast. So if you didn't hear that, yesterday we found out we had some technical stuff, so we didn't get the podcast out until a little later than we wanted, but typically we like to have it out about midday. We're trying to get into a rhythm. We have some new friends and sponsors that have joined the show. So as is the case when you go from an in-house production to now partnering with a larger production, there's some growing pains, but hopefully it hasn't been too disruptive. I hope you've still enjoyed the content. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this podcast in the review section. Hope you'll give it a 5-star review. Stay in touch and email me. You can go to chrisstigall.com to contact me. Hope you'll join the Harumph Society too while we're at it, which I love. It's a great spot. Coming up today, the interview with Mike Pompeo, his brand new book called Never Give an Inch. Now I'm going to say, full disclosure, from the top, I know this conversation is not going to be for everybody. I know there are a lot of you that don't like Mike Pompeo. You don't like Mike Pence. I know there are people that just don't trust anybody associated with Donald Trump. I get it. I have a thought about the Mike Pence document thing that may be a little different than what you're hearing. I was kind of taken aback by what I heard on Tucker's show last night, just as a theory. I'm not at odds with anybody. And as I like to say, I'm not trying to talk you out of anything. I just don't, I see differently. I just see it differently. We all have opinions, and so that's why I'm here. That's why you're here, and love to hear from you. But anyway, the Pompeo interview on the way today and my thoughts on the Mike Pence documents thing, as well as this war on your natural gas supply to your home, gas stoves. Now they're arguing that was never real, that's silly, and that's made up. Well, not so fast. We'll get into that too. John Ruhlman is the guy that makes this podcast possible. He is the title sponsor. He's the name on the door with me, if you will. usmedicalplan.com is the website. US Medical Plan, that's singular, usmedicalplan.com. Now, John and I were having a conversation when we started this partnership. I said, John, here's what I've learned about folks that listen to this podcast. Health insurance is a fortune for everybody if they're buying it out of pocket. I got a lot of small business owners. I have retired folks who are on fixed incomes that are paying tons out of pocket for supplemental insurance. I have people that are buying insurance for their family, some who have special needs, and it's costing them a ton. They need to save money. Can you help? And he said, Chris, I have over 80 different insurers that I work with, 80. So he knows the business like the back of his hand. He knows about group insurance if you're a small business owner. He knows how to save. He is obsessed with saving you money. And I'm talking about like 30 to 60% on your premiums a month. Really sizable savings. Also, navigating the mess of insurance, the bureaucracy of insurance if you're having trouble. If you're right now locked in an insurance mess and you're frustrated, call John, talk with him about it, see what he can do for you. He has a whole care department that he and his wife and his brother started 18 years ago. That's what makes usmedicalplan.com so special. John's operation is devoted to not just finding you the best rates, but also holding your hand through all the administrative nonsense so that you don't have to fight those fights. John can handle it for you should they come up. So it's usmedicalplan.com. Save big time money on health insurance costs. And I want to hear your story when you do. Please let me know when you work with John about your experience. I want to hear directly from you. Like every sponsor of this podcast, I want to know that you're well taken care of. And I have the personal assurance from everybody that does partner with this podcast that they are going to take care of you. That's something that's important to me. And I know you care about not only the value of your service, but the quality of service too. usmedicalplan.com, 877-410-4321. 877-410-4321. John Ruhlman, usmedicalplan.com. Yes, I'll ask him about the Kennedy assassination. Yeah. Yes, I'll ask him. What do you think he's going to come on the show and say? Yes, the CIA assassinated Kennedy, and I know all about it. And as a former director of the CIA, yes. All right, I'm tired of being asked the question, Stigall. Yes, it was an inside job. The CIA did it. You think Pompeo's going to say that today on the show, Fast Eddie?
I think so, man. It's all settled. Yep.
I got so many notes yesterday. You got to ask him about the Kennedy thing. I will. I'm not afraid to ask him anything. Now, his answer you might not like, but I'll ask him. Mike Pompeo will be on the show today, the former Secretary of State, former director of the CIA, former congressman. I mean, look, the guy's resume is studly. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the guy really has served the country with distinction and honor. Now, look, I get that now he's probably positioning himself for a run for president, and as such, that makes everyone highly suspicious of a guy like Mike Pompeo. You know me, and my rule here is I'll ask the questions. You don't like the answers. You like the answers. That's up to you. I don't write the answers. I ask the questions. So, yeah, I'll ask him about the CIA, and I'll talk with him about the deep state, and I'll press him on this, and we'll see where we get. He has a new book out. He's on a book tour, so Pompeo will be on the show today, and we'll get into it with the limited time we have. I like him. I like the cut of his jib on balance. I have no objection generally with Mike Pompeo, but then again, you know, I was a Bill Barr enthusiast for a long time, and Barr proved to be what I thought was a really buttoned-up, pro-justice guy. I think in the late stages of his tenure at DOJ, and then after, he's certainly shown himself to be kind of never Trumpy, like so many other swamp dwellers. That surprised me a little bit, frankly, because I just assumed that the guy came off the bench and out of retirement, didn't need the gig, and I thought he genuinely felt like a sense of duty. And I don't know, some of you may disagree with that assessment too. So I get it. Everyone's very mistrustful of swamp creatures these days. I totally understand and respect why you feel that way. Just don't shoot the messenger. All right, I'm gonna have him on. I'll ask him the questions again. You can take from the answers what you like, but that's on the way. I just happened to get home last night from watching my daughter cheer, and I flipped. It just happened to be right at the top of the hour when Tucker came on, and I didn't get to see much, but I did see Tucker really. I think he's suggesting, and I can't really tell, I think he's suggesting that Mike Pence is providing cover for Joe Biden. And I'm not really sure I get it. Maybe somebody can help me with this. Yesterday, the news came out that Mike Pence has documents now. Because everybody has documents. But what Tucker was taking exception with, now again, Mike Pence is another one of these guys I like a lot. Like, this show has had cause to run into Mike Pence a lot. We've had him on the show a lot. I think he's a great communicator. He used to do this for a living before he ran for Congress. He effectively ran for Congress. He's had a very successful political career of service. I think he is genuinely a man of God. I think he's a truthful guy. I mean, again, I don't know these people's hearts. I'm not best friends with them. But I've never known Pence to be anything but an above-board guy, to my knowledge. Now, again, I know those of you who feel like he shivved Donald Trump in the 11th hour by not holding up the certification of the votes. I think there's healthy debate to this day as to whether or not the role of the vice presidency can do that. I'm not relitigating that. Don't want to. Not interested. Rear view mirror. Got to move on. So I'm not relitigating January of 2021. I say all that to say it is odd, and Tucker took exception with the fact that Mike Pence kind of dials up the DOJ and dials up members of Congress and says, oh, hey, I happen to have some classified documents you might want. Here, Department of Justice, I have some things also. But I want everyone to know what they are, and I found them, and I know them, and here you go, handing them over. Everything's above board here. Some, like Tucker, for instance, found that odd. Thought that behavior was odd. I have no way of knowing what this means. He believes, I think, I don't want to put words in his mouth, and when I heard the news break yesterday afternoon, I sat with it for a while and wasn't really sure what to make of it other than who cares about this document crap? I don't. Regular Americans do not care about the document crap. No one thinks anyone in Washington, D.C. is pure as the wind-driven snow and not trying to enrich themselves. All of us have a healthy skepticism of people in the swamp. All of us assume that everyone who's in the swamp and leaves the swamp are trying to better themselves and enrich themselves. All of us assume that. There are very few people, and I think even those of us who we consider real heroes in the movement, I think even they do not avoid total suspicion. Like, I love Ted Cruz. He's not without faults. I love Rand Paul. He's not without faults. Donald Trump, love him, not without faults. Like, these are not flawless men and women. They make mistakes. They make judgment calls I wouldn't. Are they all trying to kind of enrich their pockets, feather their nests? I don't know. You got to take them at their word sometimes. You got to assume the best. Hope it's not the worst. I don't know what to tell you, but I've never had a bad feeling about Mike Pence. Tucker is convinced now that this Mike Pence move is to bubble wrap Biden or somehow sandbag or make Trump look worse or take Trump out. I don't see it that way. I'm not. And again, I don't want to misrepresent Tucker. I got home and I thought that was an odd take. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how this benefits him or hurts someone else or protects someone else. To me, this is a street sweep operation. To me, if this is politically damaging, and I'm not convinced it's politically damaging to anybody, but if it is, it's damaging to all of them. It neutralizes all of them at once. It makes them all wounded. And I am struck by the absence of one name in all of this, and it's constantly one name, Barack Obama. There is never a discussion of Barack Obama in any of this, ever, which is remarkable. Hillary, Biden, Trump, Pence, no Obama. Obama's fine. Obama's never mishandled a document. We're not interested to know what's at Obama's library or at Obama's house or Obama's houses. We're not interested in any of that. I don't get it. Pence went out and found classified documents and then called the DOJ and said, I'm guilty too, to help Joe Biden. He created a crime in order to take attention away from Joe Biden. I guess was Tucker's suggestion. I don't know, folks. I'm confused. I don't get it. I'm not really sure what he was driving at. I know he doesn't like Pence. I know a lot of you don't like Pence. It's just sometimes I have to kind of pause and go, huh? I mean, this doesn't help Pence. A lot of people believe Pence wants to run for president too. And so if that's true, why would Pence do that? I mean, why would Pence make himself look as bad as Trump? That's another thing. I mean, if Trump was bad, then why would you want to be associated with that? Tucker kind of derisively called him the golden child, the golden boy, the Boy Scout. And he is. He's always been that guy, like you believe he probably irons his sheets and cuts the crust off his bread. He's kind of Mitt Romney without the sleaze bag. I've always thought. I think he's a good guy, Pence. Tucker kind of said it derisively, like he's really sort of a snake. Maybe he is. Again, I don't know. But I don't understand how this benefits or helps anybody. What it says to me is, okay, so who doesn't? It would be easier if we just started asking who doesn't have classified documents. Wouldn't it be? Who doesn't have them? Let's work backwards. I don't know. The document story is not a real story. I hate to have to keep saying this. I hate to belabor it. It's not a real story. Not a thing. Not important. There is no such thing as people carting around legal boxes full of documents. It's 2023. My digital team still laughs at me that I print off physical stories every day. I'm mocked by my own staff because I print physical paper to read every day. Came in one day, kid you not, he saw this stack of stories that I print every day. He goes, "What is that?" I said, "That's my news." He goes, "You print?" I said, "Yes, I print. I got to hold it in my hand to read it." He goes, "Dude, like smartphone, tablet, laptop, you just scroll." I said, I can't. Now, again, millennial types, that makes sense to them. To me, the way I've always done this show is, yes, I need a physical piece of paper. Of course, none of it's classified. Well, at least as far as we know, Fast Eddie. You're not slipping any classified documents in there, are you?
I don't think today I did.
Trying to set me up, sandbag me. The DOJ raids me. I don't know. I'm bored. I think on this day, January 25th, 2023, I can officially rule the document story boring. I'm not. You interested in this? Seriously, Fast Eddie, give me an angle. Give me a hot take with the documents, because I'm out.
No, Chris, my first thought, honestly, when the Pence news hit yesterday, it didn't really hit me at all. It's just like, oh, wow. Okay, now there's Pence. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm just like, all right, are there documents? Does Obama have documents? That was the literally the first thing that came to my mind.
Of course he does is the answer. Yes.
Right.
Of course he does.
So honestly, I'm with you until I want to see documents discovered at Barack Obama's place, and then I will be interested in the document story again.
Yeah, and the reason that'll never happen is because Barack Obama drives all this news. And until I'm proven otherwise, that's my takeaway. That's always been my 30,000-foot view here is all old guard political forces, all old guard household names are systemically being one at a time swept off the stage. This is Operation Street Sweep of every old guard politician that Obama wants to take out in both parties, by the way. I think this is making sure that everyone associated with a potential power challenge, the deck is cleared of them all. I think that's what Obama's been doing all along. I think it started with Hillary. I think it continues with Trump. The husk. Thanks, Gramps. You've been useful. Hit the bricks. I think it's going on with Pence just for good measure. Coming to a theater near you, Ron DeSantis. They just haven't zeroed in on him yet, although they are locally. DeSantis was back in Philadelphia last night, receiving one of the highest honors given by the Union League. Now, for those of you that don't know the Union League, I know many, many members of the Union League. I myself am not a member of the Union League. Full disclosure, I have done a lot of work with the Union League over the years. I have dear friends to this day who are members. The Union League, for those of you that don't know it, it is a beautiful, gorgeous building. It is a private, members-only club. And it was a club founded... That's what makes this story hilarious. The Union League. Just keep that name in mind for those of you that don't know it. The Union League. All right? Headline, "You don't want this smoke. Philly NAACP protests Union League honor for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis." DeSantis receiving the club's highest honor, a gold medal, first awarded to President Abraham Lincoln from the club in 1863 during last night's reception and program. Now, this was a sold-out event to Union League members. It was a private event. There was no cameras. There was no audio equipment, no recording, no autographs. Very quiet, on purpose. Union League does this very, very well. They bring in people they want to honor amongst their members. They do it quietly. They don't bring in press. They don't. It's quiet, and it's on purpose that it's quiet. It's members only. These people are very, very. They're private. They're not. They don't make a lot of noise because they just. That's not what they stand for. They are about honoring God and country. This is one of the most patriotic places you will ever be in your life if you ever have the privilege to pop in and visit with these people. Either on tour, they have a beautiful museum right off the street there. If you're right off Broad, there's an entrance, and there are certain times and dates. I don't want to give out the wrong information, but if you're ever if you happen to ever be in Center City, Philadelphia, and there's time, they have beautiful historic artifacts and a beautiful museum that they're starting to develop there. The building itself is beautiful, and they give tours periodically. A lot of people that listen to this show are members of the Union League. But the Union League, let's get back to this for a minute. Because the people that were protesting outside DeSantis' honor last night, the NAACP, demonstrators chanted, "Shame and racist," to those entering and leaving the club's street entrance Tuesday afternoon, most ignoring the protesters. A few exchanged words and insults. There was also a chant, "Sexist, racist, anti-gay, Ron DeSantis, go away." Tabernacle Church pastor Reverend Alan Waller called on union member leagues to resign from the club over honoring DeSantis. If you want to hold on to a membership with them, if you want to do business with them, that is going to cause a problem with us, and you need to understand, don't come for us unless we call for you, because you don't want this smoke. Don't come for us unless we call for you, because you don't want this smoke. Who's coming for him? Ron DeSantis came to the Union League to get a gold medal honor. He's not coming for anybody. The NAACP released a statement on Tuesday ahead of DeSantis at the Union League, laying out concerns. DeSantis does not support the peaceful transfer of presidential power and is unequivocal about an armed insurrection against the United States. I don't know where they even come up with that. DeSantis supports political candidates who spread the lie the 2020 presidential election was stolen. And 3, DeSantis has trampled on the First Amendment by supporting the banning of books from libraries and schools, the restricting what teachers can say in schools, as well as teach. The Pennsylvania Democrat Party decried DeSantis and what was called an extreme agenda, including abortion ban after 15 weeks he signed into law last year that includes no exceptions for rape and incest. So he's racist, he's sexist, he's bigot, he's homophobe. And they're calling on the Union League not to host the racist. Don't honor the racist. And if you yourself are in attendance at this thing, or the Union League continues to host people like Ron DeSantis and give them these high honors, they themselves are a racist club. The NAACP chapter in Philadelphia called on the club to cancel the event. Demonstrators chanted, "Shame and racist." Now, let's get back to the foundation of the Union League, folks. The Union League was founded during the Civil War in 1862. Why is the name the Union League? Union? They were on the good guys' side. They literally formed a private club to support Abraham Lincoln's efforts. They literally paid for a statue, an abolitionist statue, to be erected just a couple of years ago outside City Hall. A black abolitionist. This is just ignorance in history. The Union League is a shrine for freedom. The Union League is a shrine for the literal good guys in the Civil War. It is a temple constructed on the ideas and the bedrock principles of the Emancipation Proclamation and Abraham Lincoln. There is no more freedom-loving, patriotic, anti-slavery, anti-bigoted organization, I'd argue, in the country than the Union League, and I'm not even a dues-paying member. But I've been honored over the years to be affiliated with many great things they do, like teaching civics to students, teaching their members civics. This is a prideful, patriotic group of people. Abraham Lincoln's birthday they honor every year by reading the Emancipation Proclamation, then they march to Independence Hall, for heaven's sakes. These are patriots. The Union League would never honor a bigot or a racist. Never. And by the way, they are not, much to my chagrin, they are not even exclusively a Republican club anymore. Which, I disagree with that. I mean, if ever there was somebody I'd shun, I'd check their political affiliation at the door, but they don't even do that. So my point in bringing this story up is not because it's about the Union League. It's about coming to a theater near you. As I just said, Ron DeSantis is going to be the next target. This is not some local wacko chapter in Philadelphia going after Ron DeSantis. This is laying the Pennsylvania Democrat Party was engaged on this too. They don't want him in Pennsylvania. They don't want him gaining a ground game in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania either. What has traditionally been considered a swing state and problematic. They don't want that. So Trump, Biden, Hillary before that, Pence now. Here comes DeSantis. DeSantis was at the Chiefs game I told you on Saturday. Raucous applause in the stands. He's there for Jacksonville, ostensibly, and Chiefs fans are like erupting for him. He's starting to make moves. He's been giving speeches around the country, stumping for different Republicans at these private events, and everywhere he goes, protesters are showing up. So the left is starting to try to figure out how to organize and deal with DeSantis next. So while the deck is being cleared of the husk and cackle britches and their BlackBerry, now Pence and Trump in the document, like you see it. You see what's happening. They're clearing the deck. They're trying to play offense with these people. So just keep a sharp eye on it. We will here, too. Bob Spinato is at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, Pennsylvania, just off the Blue Route, the absolute best in cosmetic dentistry. It's not even close. And the Philadelphia region, really, I would say up and down the eastern seaboard, he's worth a trip. You want a smile overhaul like I had years ago? You want your teeth to look white, bright, straight? Bob can do it, and he does it better than most because there are, just like any kind of cosmetic surgery out there, there are those that are kind of hacks. And Bob's even sort of taught me, we've been together, and he can tell. He'll watch somebody on TV and go, yeah, they've had work. Ooh, not good. I mean, Bob knows his stuff. He's also a tremendously compassionate general dentist, and while I spend a lot of time talking about the kind of the flashiness of cosmetic dentistry, you should know that it's just a general dentist. If you're anywhere in the Philadelphia area, anywhere near that region, and you want a great dentist, look, you go twice a year. As long as you're not having any troubles, you're supposed to check in twice a year. It's worth going out of your way because you're going to find that this guy is very sensitive to you and your concerns about dentistry being painful or judgmental, making you feel bad, hurting you physically. I mean, he dreads that he would ever do that to any of his patients. And I have never known, in all my years endorsing Bob, I've never known a single person, friend, family, neighbor, colleague, who I've sent who hasn't called me up and said, Chris, thank you for the recommendation. They were beautiful. They were wonderful. I mean, I have listeners that send me copies of, and Bob will send me pictures too of, this listener of yours just came in, sent me this gift. I mean, he gets flowers, he gets fruit bouquets, he gets handwritten notes that are lovely from listeners of this show. And that warms my heart because I believe Bob is a dear friend. I believe in what he does. And I know when you experience that kind of quality dentistry, you're going to become a believer too. Williamsburg-dental.com, Williamsburg-dental.com. Or call 610-353-2700, 610-353-2700. Listen to this resume, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even sure where to start. All of them are impressive as all get out. Director of the Central Intelligence Agency. He graduated first of his class from the United States Military Academy at West Point. He served as a cavalry officer in the United States Army, graduated from Harvard Law, ran a couple of businesses, Secretary of State, House of Representatives. You take your pick. The man's name is Mike Pompeo. He's got a brand new book called Never Give an Inch, Fighting for the America I Love. Mr. Secretary, pleasure to have you on the show, sir. Good morning.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Thanks for the kind introduction. It is great to be with you today.
Of all of that, that's a very distinguished resume, sincerely, and you've served your country with distinction for some time. Of all of your service, what do you look back on most fondly?
Oh, my goodness. They're all so unique and so special. Probably the most fun was my time as a young lieutenant. I was armor officer in an M1 tank patrolling the then communist East German border. When you're 22 years old, running up and down a border in an M1 tank, there's nothing much more lovely than that and more fun. But look, those two recent jobs were an enormous privilege. To think that you're going to be the director of the Central Intelligence Agency or the 70th Secretary of State is something one never dreams of. And so I tried to use every minute of the time that I had to serve America, and it was an incredible privilege.
So there's a lot about the CIA in the news these days. I don't have to tell you. You represented Kansas. You know what Midwesterners are like. I myself am a Midwesterner, so I know you to be a straight shooting and an honest guy. I'm never one for conspiracy theories. I don't like going down those rabbit holes. But as of late, the things we've seen from social media collusion with official Washington, and that's just one of many things, have a lot of Americans on edge, Mr. Secretary, that the folks pulling the levers of power in places like the CIA and the FBI do not have our best interests at heart. I don't know, one, if you can confirm that, and two, if you can tell us if that interpretation is correct while you were there overseeing it.
So I'll give you a couple of thoughts. First, most of what we've seen in the Twitter files, I think that's what you're mostly referring to there. Most of that was the White House and the FBI working to suppress important information for the American people. That is indecent. I think in some cases probably unlawful. But what it troubles me the most about it is it's inconsistent with the traditional understanding of America and how law enforcement, which is what the FBI is designed to do, is failing at its central mission. When I came into the CIA, I was replacing John Brennan, my predecessor, as the director. He had politicized that institution in ways that lost the focus on mission. And maybe that's the best way to end, which is it's important that presidents select leaders for these institutions. I talk in my book about the fact that Director Comey on January 6, 2017, told President Trump he was a Russian asset. He made it very difficult for us in so many ways by having done that. We need to make sure that we choose leaders at every level, at the FBI, at the State Department, at the Justice Department, at the CIA, who are going to keep those units, those teams, those organizations focused on mission. And in Never Give an Inch, that's what I spend a great deal of time talking about, how every day I reminded my team, we have a mission. President Trump is the duly elected president of the United States. We have a constitution. We know what it is we're supposed to do. Don't let the noise, don't let the politics of Washington, D.C. take you off the central understanding and the reason you joined the organization. Go do good. Go do good for America. And I think for the time I was at CIA, I got them back on the right track. In the tradition of the OSS, we were out breaking glass and doing good stuff. The State Department was a beast with 3 unions, and that is an unruly organization. It's going to take the next president determined, probably take 8 years to unpack the problems at the State Department.
Do you think it's a good, well, I know you don't think it's a good place. I think there's a natural and healthy tension between Americans and their government that's always existed, but do you feel like we're in a place now that's gotten precarious, to put it mildly? It feels like there's a good swath of the country that really feels at odds, particularly with the intelligence wing of our government, and I'm just curious what you think of that.
You captured. I'm worried about that too. Americans have to come to trust these institutions, and those institutions have the responsibility to earn that trust by both the way they speak and their demonstrated work. And we've seen them undermine it, right? We have so many Americans that now don't trust our election process. What everyone thinks about, right? That's dangerous.
Yes.
Right? We still have Secretary Clinton out talking about the fact that she doesn't think the 2016 election was right. We have President Trump saying he thinks 2020 was stolen. That's bad. We know how to run transparent elections that everybody can go, Sally got the most votes for city council, right?
Yeah.
Right. Or John he's a duly elected school board member. And so we have to get these institutions back in a place that the American people can trust them. And I would add, this is a broader challenge for us today in America. We need leaders everywhere, in our churches, our synagogues, our mosques, our school boards, who are honest and transparent with the people that they are designed to serve, in a way that gives them confidence in the structure and institutions. America's founders depended on that, and we've lost that.
Yeah, and you see the violence that's just erupted recently in the major cities with Antifa again, and I think as we hear about these J6 people continue to be look, they're both bad, but I wouldn't, if I have to weigh them, January 6th versus this ongoing assault in major American cities, it seems like we have a lack of intelligence related to these domestic terrorists called Antifa. We know a lot about these J6 guys. You know what I mean?
Actually, I wrote about this a little bit in the book, and I've been pilloried by the left for this. I said that the January 6th rioters broke laws. They should be prosecuted. Fair enough. But the folks who rioted in Minneapolis and Portland and in Seattle, who set up their own little town, or what we're seeing this past week, I guess it was last week, right, in Atlanta, that these people present enormous risk to the United States too. Ordinary citizens not feeling safe in their homes. This is indecent. It's inconsistent with who we are. And so you got to fix these things. And so the FBI, and for that matter, state and local law enforcement, right, the folks with primary responsibility in most of these cases, they got to be out securing these folks' life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice. This idea of property rights and human protection is something that I think we've lost a focus on. And so whether you're the mayor of New York or San Francisco or Seattle or Portland, you cannot be proud of the way your city is operating today. And I promise you the citizens in those places can feel the difference.
Do you think Christopher Wray is doing a good job? What's your opinion of that guy running the FBI?
So I worked with Chris on a handful of things. He and I ran a great operation together. I write about this in Never Give an Inch. We ran a great operation together, taking down the largest spy ring, I think, ever in the United States that was being run by the Chinese government out of their consulate in Houston, Texas. We shut the consulate down. But I've also seen Chris not get it right when it comes to making sure that his organization, the FBI, is doing things that are not political. Every leader has a responsibility to take the politics out of it, especially those like leaders of the FBI who have a law enforcement and an intelligence component inside their bureaucracy.
I'm just going to ask you point blank because I have no other way to couch it. Guys like Tucker have been on TV in recent weeks and months suggesting that the CIA, I'm not even saying suggesting, there have been reports out, I'm not heaping it on him, that the CIA has been directly involved with things like the Kennedy assassination and Watergate. And being a guy that ran it for a while, what would you say about that? People have been asking me to ask you that.
Oh my goodness, I can't say a whole lot about the details because I was responsible for some of the decisions about how we handled some of the documents in the Kennedy files. But I could tell the American people this: the storyline from those. I think of the Kennedy files, I think 99.6% of the documents are out in the public. Read them, go see what's in there. There have been dozens of investigations of this. I think some of the assertions. In the face of people who say, why they didn't turn that document over, there must be something nefarious there. I watched over how we protected our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines by keeping classified information in its rightful space. And it is simply not the case that just because we decide that a document shouldn't be shared with the American public for security reasons, that one should jump to the darkest corner in the world. And perhaps that's the most I can say about that.
Do you think the, if you want to call it deep state, has the ability or authority to change the direction of the country without the will of the voter behind it? Do you think we're there?
I tell you, it takes gumption. It takes men and women with a backbone of steel. At the State Department, I fought it just about every day. They were trying to delay, stall, overturn, throw sand in the gearbox of what it was I was trying to accomplish. And that is dangerous. It's not consistent with our Constitution. So I do worry about that. And it means that leaders of character have to go rebuild those institutions in a way that's consistent with our founding.
I know you've been asked about your intentions to run. I won't ask you that, but I would ask you generally. There's an election for RNC chair coming up. Do you have an opinion on who should lead the RNC going forward? Ronna McDaniel wants another term versus somebody like Harmeet Dillon, for instance.
So I know them both. I've spoken to them both. I've told them both the same thing. The RNC has an important mission. It is to help us win elections. We didn't win a lot of elections in the way we should have this past election cycle. And it has 2 or 3 pieces, things it's supposed to do with excellence: deliver information to voters, make sure we know where the voters are, and make sure those voters actually turn out, vote once, but everybody gets out and turns out to vote. Whoever the members of the RNC ultimately select, they should make sure that the leader of the RNC and the whole team is focused on that singular election. I don't mean this politically. It matters to America that we get this right. If the conservative ideas, if the Judeo-Christian teachings of our founding are walked away from, if we keep teaching kids crap in our schools, then this is a nation that will be, just like Xi Jinping wants them to believe, that this will be a nation in decline. That is unacceptable, and the RNC has a responsibility to make sure that Republican voters, conservatives around this country, get on the ballot, get their names in. They are registered to vote. They get a ballot and they go vote. We haven't done that well, and we need to do it better.
Do you have any relationship with Donald Trump today, Mr. Secretary, or have you spoken with him recently?
It's been a little while, but I've spoken to him a lot. What have we been out now? 2 years, I guess. I've spoken to him a lot in these last couple of years. I am I'm deeply grateful for the privilege that he gave me.
The book is called Never Give an Inch, Fighting for the America I Love, Mike Pompeo. By the way, congratulations on the weight loss. You look great. Is that a constant struggle? Because I know as a guy that's gained and lost tons of weight over my life, it's a constant fight for me. You?
It's a constant struggle. Never give an inch. I hadn't thought about this. That could apply to my waistline too. I may use that again. It's been a constant struggle for me.
Me too.
I did lose a lot of weight. I feel a lot better. I hope I can maintain something close to where I'm at.
Well, if you're going to start campaigning, if in fact you're campaigning, that's going to be the biggest challenge because you're at every chili cook-off, steak fry. You're eating like a nut out there when you're campaigning.
I love that stuff.
I know. Does that mean we can expect that you'll be eating it? Is that what you're saying? Is that a confession here?
I'll probably be eating it whether I run for office again or not. Sadly, I hope not. My wife will try and keep me honest.
Mr. Secretary, it's an honor to speak with you. I appreciate your service to the country.
Bless you. Thank you. Thanks for your time today, sir. So long.
You want to talk about customer service? So I told you that I sent my entire team MyPillow products. One of my associate producers messaged me yesterday. He said, I really hate to do this, but I ordered a size in slipper that's a little too big. The slipper I got from MyPillow, it's incredible, it's comfortable, but it's a little too big. Do you think it's a big deal to exchange it? He called the customer service folks. They needed an order number, and because it was a gift, he didn't have one. So I ended up calling MyPillow myself. They called him back, and my associate producer called me back, and he said, Chris, I'm not kidding when I tell you these people are the most exemplary customer service-driven company I've ever dealt with. So beyond the quality products at MyPillow.com, and I hope you go there and I hope you shop, because I gave as gifts to the entire team my coffee, the dog bed, the body pillow I ordered for myself. I got sheets and towels for Stately Stigall Manor. I got my wife's slippers. I got my travel pillow, a Go Anywhere pillow for one of my assistant producers. The coffee and the dog bed I sent to Fast Eddie. So I got the whole team outfitted, and there's plenty more. I mean, there's robes. Well, there's more than I can list here. Go to MyPillow.com. Most importantly, I hope that you will. Now, they have set up a distinct promo code for the podcast listener, and it's Chris Podcast. Chris Podcast. If you type in Chris Podcast, those of you that listen, that's how they know you listen to the podcast. And when you order, you'll get up to 66% off on this stuff. The coffee's great. I've been drinking it now for the last couple of days. I got the light. They have it darker and then I think pretty dark. I got the lightest blend, so I made it a little weaker than I probably enjoy yesterday. I loaded up a bit more, and it's perfect today. Really delicious. So that is now the official coffee of the show every morning. My coffee, My Pillow products. Go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code ChrisPodcast and save up to 66%. And I guarantee you great service. If you have any issue whatsoever, they have a money-back guarantee within a period of time. They guarantee their stuff for up to 10 years. 60-day money-back guarantee. MyPillow.com or call 800-932-5056. That's 800-932-5056. Use that promo code ChrisPodcast to save. All right. Michael's Sword on Twitter said, what a total POS Pompeo is. Saying absolutely nothing. He's a liar. Disgusting. He is crap on the bottom of the shoe. Backstabbing POS, which stands for piece of excrement. Fast Eddie. So I... Just reading your reviews honestly about the conversation with Mike Pompeo. I have, I respect the country that he served admirably as a cavalry officer, as a graduate of West Point. I think his military service is exceptional. I think most people honor military service. What one becomes when they become a member of official Washington, that's for you to review the resume and make your own judgment. I don't know what his future holds. I doubt sincerely it is a future in politics. I don't think he's going to become the next president of the United States, even if he wants to. Nor do I think Mike Pence is either. So you hate the guys, fine. No skin off my back. I will just tell you, of all the people that move me and concern me in government or formerly of government today, Mike Pence and Mike Pompeo are not at the top of my list. They're not guys that make my blood race. Some of you hate these guys like as much as you hate Barack Obama and Joe Biden. I don't understand that. I'm going to be just completely candid with you. I don't understand it, but I do understand that there are a lot of people that are just generally angry about the state of the country's affairs, and I share it. The deep concern, the ruin, the radical nature of the agenda the people that are in power have for the future of the country. And so I understand that you see anyone who is in power as associated with people that are destroying the country. I totally respect and understand that that's your feeling. I don't think I can assign that to every single person who's held elected office. And I think we're getting to a place where everyone who's ever held elected office is now suspect. And I just can't live my life that way. Until I have real reason to believe that someone is means the country harm or is actively trying to sabotage the country, until I have a hard evidence to back that up. I think we have that in Hillary Clinton, for instance. I think we have that in Joe Biden. We certainly have that in Barack Obama. We have that in the Democrat Party. Do I think there are a lot of lazy Republicans? I do. Do I think there are subversive figures in the Republican Party who enjoy being the minority party? They want to make money. They're grifters as opposed to actual ideological challengers. Of course I do. But do I think the Republican Party is full of sinister characters who are trying to ruin the country? I don't. You may not share that point of view. I just don't. That doesn't mean I give everybody the blind benefit of the doubt simply because they have an R behind their name. You know, you got to look at their words versus their actions. And their actions are always very telling. Do you know that the new guy, for instance, speaking of the actions being telling, do you know that the new guy that's going to be the White House chief of staff replacing Ron Klain, he's the COVID czar under Biden. I forget his name, doesn't matter. But I just read this yesterday. You ready for this? He's a multi-millionaire, not shockingly, became a multi-millionaire in the COVID era, I think with ties to Big Pharma. He keeps, and this was disclosed in his federal financial disclosure statement, he keeps $5 million worth of gold bars in his possession. Gold bricks. Like Daffy Duck. Like what does that tell you? This is what I mean, like follow their actions, what they actually do, and it tells you a lot. Words, on the other hand, don't mean a lot when you're talking about House Republicans. Actions do, and I have to give credit to Kevin McCarthy for the latest actions he's taken, and it's making the press and Democrats furious. McCarthy has named a mixed bag of members of Republicans' sprawling investigative panel, including conservative hardliners like Jim Jordan, who represent a combination of both, to lead it. Last night, McCarthy appointed a dozen GOP lawmakers, including Jim Jordan, to a select subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government. Republicans are expected to use it to probe, among other targets, the FBI, Justice Department, and the intelligence community, agencies at the center of some of the biggest recent gripes. The panel is a product of the weeks-long negotiations between McCarthy and the right flank as he locked down the votes to ultimately win a historic 15-ballot fight for the Speaker's gavel. Two people that will not be involved, Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, Captain Douche, and that bug-eyed reprobate, both from California. Headline, Adam Schiff vows revenge as Kevin McCarthy blocks him and Eric Swalwell from the Intelligence Committee. Why should either of these guys be on the Intelligence Committee? Kevin McCarthy was asked about this, badgered about this yesterday. And I have to tell you, again, it's not just words, because he's actually taken the action of kicking these guys off the committee. I mean, Schiff is a guy who abused privileged access to intelligence on the Russian hoax. He engineered a sham impeachment. He spied on fellow members of Congress. He tried to have a journalist censored. He joined a pathetic partisan show trial. Adam Schiff shouldn't be in Congress. As for Swalwell, of course, we know Fang, his Chinese spy girlfriend. So they're both disqualified for a host of reasons. And as Kevin McCarthy was being badgered by the press about this yesterday, he just let it rip. And I have to say, I like this Kevin McCarthy a lot. Listen.
He's gotten elected by his district. So, okay, let me be very clear and respectful to you. You ask me a question. When I answer it, it's the answer to your question. You don't get to determine whether I answer your question or not, okay? In all respect. Thank you.
Good for him.
No, let's answer her question. You just raised a question. I'm going to be very clear with you. The Intel Committee is different. You know why? Because what happens in the Intel Committee, you don't know. What happens in the Intel Committee, although the secrets are going on in the world, other members of Congress don't know. What did Adam Schiff do as the chairman of the Intel Committee? What Adam Schiff did, use his power as a chairman and lie to the American public. Even the Inspector General said it. When Devin Nunes put out a memo, he said it was false. When we had a laptop, he used it before an election to be politics and say that it was false and said it was the Russians. When he knew different, when he knew the intel, if you talk to John Radcliffe, DNI, he came out ahead of time and says there's no intel to prove that, and he used his position as chairman, knowing he has information the rest of America does not, and lied to the American public. When a whistleblower came forward, he said he did not know the individual, even though his staff had met with him and set it up. So no, he does not have a right to sit on that. But I will not be like Democrats and play politics with these, where they removed Republicans from committees and all committees. So yes, he can serve on a committee, but he will not serve on intel, because it goes to the national security of America. And I will always put them first. All right?
Oh, I like that Kevin McCarthy a lot. He found a set. I don't know if this might be what those recalcitrant Freedom Caucus 20 helped inject in old Kevin. Kicked Swalwell and Schiff off of intelligence entirely. I like that. Now, that's action. That's not just words. And he dressed down a member of the media. So this is good, Kevin McCarthy. We must praise this moment. This is a good development. This is positive. Not saying it's going to be long-lasting. I'm saying in this moment, this week, today, we say, well done, Kevin McCarthy. Then there's this. U.S. poised to approve Abrams tanks for Ukraine. This, if Kevin McCarthy supports, is bad Kevin McCarthy. In what would be a reversal, the Biden administration is poised to approve sending M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, officials said yesterday. And international reluctance to send tanks is what we're trying to stave off, apparently. So we're going to step in where the rest of the international community doesn't want to. Great. A decision to send a bit more than 30 tanks could be announced as soon as today. They could be months before delivered. U.S. officials said details are still being worked out. One official said the tanks would be bought under an upcoming Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative package, which provides longer-range funding for weapons and equipment to be purchased from commercial vendors. So last I checked, the government just can't send money and tanks to Ukraine without congressional approval. Let's hope House Republicans reject that. I'm not optimistic, so that would be bad, Kevin, if he doesn't come out and pump the brakes on that. The gas fireplace and gas stove issue. Jennifer Granholm, the wacko energy secretary, completely denies this is a thing. Take a listen.
Let's talk about stoves, because the big energy story over the last couple of weeks has been my gas stove. I'm a gas stove owner.
Can I say that is so ridiculous, that story, because it sounds like the government's coming in to take your stove. That is so not true. That is just not true.
And in fairness, the science on this is well established. There's nothing new here about the health risks posed by gas stoves. And as I did a little poking around, I discovered that the government right now is Department of Energy. You want to electrify your buildings and remove natural gas as a fossil fuel.
Right. I mean, people aren't aware that, kids who have asthma, 12% of kids who have asthma are because they were exposed to gas stoves and the emissions that gas stoves do, and it's very harmful. But a lot of people love their gas stoves, so nobody's trying to take away. No. But to provide an option and to provide incentives to consider other forms of stoves. So an induction stove is an electric stove.
You see? Incentive. It's outrageous. We're not coming for your stove. We're incentivizing you to stop using your stove. Isn't that nice? We're not telling you not to use gasoline to power your car. We're just incentivizing you to buy an electric car. By making it so expensive to buy gasoline, you have no choice. You see, it's an incentive, but you still have a choice. Incentivizing. It's outrageous that we're coming for your stove. We're not coming for your stove. Weird, then, that the Washington Post would have a headline, "Want to break up with your gas fireplace? Here's how to convert it." You know, I heard a colleague doing a news show this morning, Gordon Deal, who hosts the America This Morning or News This Morning or whatever. It's a national broadcast. I heard him interviewing a woman who said something very similar. You know, a lot of gas stoves are out there on the coasts, and there's a lot of health risks, you know. It's well established, the health risks from gas stoves. Is it well established? I keep hearing that. It's well established. I've never, ever in my life heard about a gas stove causing childhood asthma. Never. But now it's well-established science. Huh? And so Gordon's doing this whole interview with this woman. I don't forget where she comes from. But she then goes on to pitch, you know, it's just not true what people say about gas stoves being superior to electric stoves. In fact, most people in the country own electric stoves, not gas stoves. In fact, the new technology in electric stoves makes it far more convenient and better to cook with, and there's all these attributes. So it's very strange for Democrats to say, we're not coming for your electric or your gas stove. We're not coming for your stoves. No. We just want to tell you all the benefits to electric stoves and why you're killing your children if you keep using gas stoves. We're trying to incentivize electric stoves. We're not taking your gas stove. They're coming for your gas stove. For homeowners who enjoy the simplicity of pushing a button to create instant cozy ambiance, gas fireplaces have long been the obvious choice. But amid growing pressure to ban natural gas in homes, preferences are changing. This is the Washington Post. So when the Washington Post says there is growing pressure to ban natural gas in homes, let me play for you again what the crazy energy secretary said yesterday. Who's telling the truth, do you suppose?
Let's talk about stoves, because the big energy story over the last couple of weeks has been my gas stove. I'm a gas stove owner.
Can I say that is so ridiculous, that story, because it sounds like the government's coming in to take your stove. That is so not true.
Okay.
That is just not true.
Yeah, well, Marissa Hermanson at the Washington Post just yesterday, check the headline, "Want to break up with your gas fireplace? Here's how to convert it." This is the actual story, and the second sentence, "Amid growing pressure to ban natural gas in homes, preferences are changing." Which is an oxymoronic thing to write in one sentence anyway. Amidst pressure to ban, preferences are changing. How can your preference change if the thing you have a preference for is banned? You see what they're doing? You see how they do this? In this case, this is both literal and metaphorical gaslighting. Gas prices rise on strong demand, higher oil prices. This is one of the things that the Biden administration was telling us the truth about. Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, warned last year, did she not? And we talked a lot about this. Expect in January gas prices to rise, and here they are. Gas prices have steadily begun to increase due to rise in fuel demand coupled with higher oil prices. National average for a gallon of regular gasoline notched $3.44 on Tuesday. This is why I go back to what I said about a Marxist agenda and a Marxist takeover of the country. This is not about personalities. This is about ideology. We get lost in all these stupid little microcosmic stories about Mike Pence and documents and Trump and documents and Biden and documents that misses the broader point. Culturally, we're being hijacked. In the form of the Department of Energy, in the form of the Department of Transportation. They tried to use the Department of Labor to force all of us to take a shot we didn't want or lose our jobs. They're hijacking our schools with over-sexualized trans ideology and CRT. This is a full-blown Marxist takeover of the country while they try to distract us with all these little personality disputes and who might be doing who to what, and like it's a game of Clue. No, this is an effective hijacking of the country, wide open borders, hijacking the country, and it's being orchestrated at a very high level. Beyond the husk, who's being used as a sock puppet. His usefulness is over. It's time to replace the puppet. With whom? Not sure yet. Maybe Gavin Newsom. Maybe Cackle Britches. Don't know. Don't know for sure. But the point is, this is a big-time, big-league, global ideology hijacking the country. This is not about documents. Survey finds Americans wildly misinformed on housing market. You just don't understand how good it is out there. You're misinformed. No kidding, from the Hill. A new survey finds Americans are woefully misinformed about the nation's mercurial housing market, even as millions prepare to buy homes. 28 million Americans plan to purchase a home this year. But you just don't get it. You just don't get it. Prospective homebuyers sound oddly optimistic about prices. It may be because they're pessimistic about the state of the housing market. 2/3 of Americans surveyed said they expect an imminent housing crash. Real estate economists do not. Oh, well, economists have never been wrong. Home prices have already been falling, especially on the West Coast. Prices will continue to fall in some cities in 2023, but a drop in home prices isn't necessarily a crash. Oh, okay. So now we're nibbling around the edges. How to define what's a crash or a downturn? I see. Another head scratcher. You stupid morons out there, writes The Hill, believe current mortgage rates are unprecedented, meaning they've never been seen before. You stupid morons, you. That's not true. The average rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage hit 6.15% last week, according to the Fed. Yes, that's higher than mortgage rates have been over the past few years, which have usually ranged below 3%. But it's not unprecedented. Why, over the last 50 years, mortgages have averaged 7.75%. Yes, I know. I remember when I was a kid, my parents told me of mortgage rates in the 70s and early 80s that were up near 20%. Yes, I remember. I know. So when you say stupid things like, well, it's not true that mortgage rates are unprecedented. Why, you take a 50-year rolling average and they're only about 7. We're not even at 7. Yes, and once upon a time when we had gas lines and mortgage rates on homes were nearly 20%, that's not a place we want to be. So you take recent mortgage rates that have been at like 3% or lower sometimes and take 50 years of mortgage rates and throw it all in a pot. Yes, the 3% interest rates really help the period of time when we're talking about 20% interest rates. I mean, this spin, it's exactly like that. We're not coming for your gas stoves. Housing prices there's not a crash in the housing market. Interest rates are fine. Everything's fine. It's so insulting. And they actually insult you to your face. Everything's fine. You're just misinformed. It's not even historically that bad. 6% interest on a mortgage is not like you should have been around in the 70s, they say. Well, we weren't. We weren't buying homes then. We are now. And we don't like 6% when it's been 3 for the better part of 20 years. We don't like it. Unbelievable. They actually scold you for complaining about the housing market. You don't know what you're talking about. Legacy media is misrepresenting results of a new study on child sex change treatments. The study, published last week in the New England Journal of Medicine, this from the Daily Wire, analyzed the data collected between 2016 and 2019 from 4 prominent pediatric gender clinics and found that depression only lessened for females after taking testosterone, which has known antidepressant effects. The males in the study, who were conversely given estrogen, which does not have antidepressant properties, saw no improvement in their well-being. Despite this, at least 6 news outlets lauded the new study as proof that gender-affirming care improves teens' mental health without distinguishing between the profoundly different results of males and females. We're castrating our children. We're hijacking gas-powered stoves, natural gas in our homes, gasoline-powered vehicles. We have a wide-open border with millions of people pouring into it. Our school children are being radicalized, taught to hate people based on the color of their skin. This country is being hijacked by a movement orchestrated and authored by the most radical and the most divisive man ever to see the office of the presidency, and people like him, not just him, but people like him. Call it Soros if you want, call it kind of a globalist reorganization, whatever you want to call it, but it is a Marxist ideology on the march. And the sock puppet husk that we're pretending is running things is the one that's being used at the moment. Don't get caught up in personality disputes and miss the fact that we are from all fronts under attack.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.